Here, I'll call the planning board meeting to order for October 4th, 2023. Nice summer day. I don't think we'll be having another one this year at all. I want to bring to everyone's attention that this room has two exits. They're on the right-hand side of the audience, they're at the front of the room, and the back of the room. If we need to evacuate for any reason, we ask you to proceed through the exit closest to you, go outside, don't come back in till our fire officials have instructed us to do so. I'd like to ask everyone to please rise for pledge allegiance to the American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Ann is not going to be here tonight, so I will appoint Jason. You haven't, I don't think I've appointed you in a while. You vote for Ann,
Sounds good.
okay? And we have 6, 7, 8 members, and it's a quorum, or actually more than a quorum, and we can proceed with our meeting tonight. Tonight, the first part, we have administrative board work, we got our business done. The second part of the meeting, we have a lot line adjustment plan, we have a site plan, and a hearing on a conditional use permit. And then the last item on the agenda is the CIP public hearing. And I was going to ask if anyone is here for the CIP, just raise your hand, please. I was expecting a good number of people, and I don't see anyone, so we will tackle the agenda from the way we have it set up. If a lot of people were here for the CIP, I would have taken that first. So, first part of the meeting is administrative board work. We have approval of minutes. The minutes of September 6th and September 13th, we will do those next week at our meeting on the 11th. And regional impact determinations, I think the lot line adjustment is the item on the, you have the floor, Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You are correct. The regional impact determination for this evening is relating to the lot line adjustment, which is item A under new plans for this evening. And staff is recommending that this is not of regional impact.
Okay. The board has no questions. I'll take a motion to signify that this is not of regional impact.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that this development does not meet the standards for regional impact.
Second.
Motion by Al, second by Jake. Any discussion by the board? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Abstentions? The chair votes affirmative. Motion carries. That's all we have for impact. Discussions with town staff. I think you had a couple of things there, Kelly.
I have two items for you, Mr. Chair. The first is an extension request relating to the Wood Partners project. The board more knows it as the Alta Woodmont project, specifically the site plan. They're requesting a 75-day extension, which brings the date to December 19th, 2023.
Okay. And their reason?
They're continuing to seek out their final permitting with the state and I believe the sewer discharge permit.
Correct.
So that is taking some additional time, so they're just working through those last few items.
Okay. Board have any questions? If not, I'll take a motion that we extend the Wood Partners to the 19th of December.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion by Al, second by Jake. Any discussion by the board? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Abstentions? Chair votes affirmative, and motion carries. And extension request has been granted to the 19th of December, 2023. Anything else, Kelly?
One more item for you, Mr. Chair. The planning department was contacted by an engineer who's doing work in Derry on Jefferson Street. This is in close proximity to Hillside, which is in Londonderry. The Derry portion of this area is being proposed for a 3-lot subdivision. What I have up on the screen is the subdivision plan. You'll see that the town line runs right through one of the parcels as part of the Derry subdivision plan. This is an awareness item for the planning board. There is no impact to the town of Londonderry land. There is no proposed disturbance or structure or cutting or anything of that nature relating to this project. This is just me bringing it to the board's attention
Just
that that's what's going on.
information,
over
there's
there.
nothing that Londonderry has to do for this.
Correct.
Okay, any questions from the board? Nope, we're all set. And anything from the board? I just wanted to mention that on the 14th of October at 10 a.m., right here, 10 to noon, is a listening session in regards to the old town hall. So anyone who wants to come certainly can, and I'm sure you'll be entertained. I don't think there's any refreshments.
Oh, they'll be
Okay, we'll get into our new plans. We have a public hearing on an application for a formal review of a lot line adjustment to adjust the lot lines of tax map 17, lot 5-5, 5 Kitty Hawk Landing, tax map 17, lot 11, 595 Mammoth Road, tax map 17, lot 13, 603 Mammoth Road, zone industrial 1, agricultural residential AR1 and commercial 2, C2, Londonderry Holdings LLC, and Tebow Corporation of New Hampshire and Tebow Corporation of New England are the owners, and Ken Selinsky is the applicant. And what we need to do first is see if this plan is complete.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, there are 8 outstanding checklist items which are as follows. The applicant, item number 1, applicant did not provide the owner's address in the title block per section 402E of the regs and item 32E of the checklist. Item number 2, the applicant did not provide the applicant's address in the title block per section 402J of the regs and item 32J of the checklist. In addition, the cover sheet identifies a different applicant's name and in general information than noted in the title block. Item 3, the applicant's submission does not include the proper notes on the plans for the proposed lot areas, existing and proposed use, sanitary sewer service, water supply source, zoning variances, and note identifying which plans are to be recorded per sections 411C, 411F, 411G, H, I, and O of the regulations, and items 37C, F, G, H, I, and N of the checklist. Item 4, the applicant's submission did not include the owner's signature per the regulations, and item 327 of the checklist. Item 5, the applicant's submission did not include all required setbacks, including applicable buffers to the subject lots per section 412C18 of the regs and item 328 of the checklist. Item 6, the applicant's submission did not include the location of existing overhead utility lines per section 305 and 412C22 of the regs and item 331 of the checklist. Item 7, the applicant's submission did not include tax map sketch showing the proposed lot configuration at a scale of 1 inch equals 400 feet per section 415 of the regs, and item 38 of the checklist. Lastly, the applicant's submission did not include the proposed driveways to serve vacant lots 5, and 11, lot per sections 309B and 309F of the regs, and item 334 of the checklist, including a driveway site distance plan for each existing and proposed driveway per Exhibit D3 of the regulations.
I'm just going to chime in for 1 second.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I just wanted to point out that we did receive a waiver request from the applicant this afternoon, and that's specific to item number 8 on the staff memo relating to the site distance plan for the existing and proposed driveways. I note that for the board because this waiver is, the request is to waive it in its entirety, not just for acceptance purposes only. So I just wanted to make that clear for the board.
So that would have to be taken
separately.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that would be taken separately if we accept the application.
Correct.
Yes. Okay, yeah, actually, I'll go through the board anyway with questions for staff. I think it's something we're going to have to think about a little bit, so questions staff. So I'll start with Ted.
I was going to say you can start with Jason.
I think Ted is a much better choice.
Oh, it's gonna be a long night.
Yeah, don't say that. I didn't bring my sleeping bag.
Mr. Chair, I'd be more than happy to start,
Okay, Nick will start.
since
so.
none of the, I gotta start sitting on the end again, don't
Yes.
I? I'd be comfortable waiving these for acceptance purposes right now, so we can hear what the applicant has to say. I do have a question for TF Moran. You guys do a lot of work in Londonderry. You got 8 outstanding checklist items.
I am aware, sir.
Certainly not your first day at our planning board, correct?
No, it is not, sir.
All right.
I think
That
there's
is
probably a reason behind it. So the
Yeah.
only way we're going to find out is to accept it for, accept it for acceptance purposes only. But I'll go through the board first to get, I'll come back to you, Ted.
Certainly. I have no major issue with accepting it right now, as we've accepted other plans that are just lot line adjustments, that were simple lot line
Yeah,
adjustments.
not the first time we've
No.
run into this. But
Yeah,
Tony.
and I would be comfortable with that as well.
Okay, Johnny,
Yeah, me too.
okay, Jeff,
I agree. I would definitely be comfortable with accepting.
Lynn,
Yeah, Mike, I concur as well.
Al,
I'd go for waiving his acceptance only.
okay, and we know where Jake is, so, Roger.
I just have one question. You said there was one that we should be, one item we should be separating. Is that correct?
That would be an additional waiver if we
If we
Accept.
accept it,
the application.
we can handle it there.
Okay. I agree.
Okay, Jason?
I agree as well.
Okay, I will take a motion then, that we accept the, well, we'll do
Mr.
one through 8, we'll set waivers 1 through
Okay.
8 for,
Acceptance only.
acceptance only.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Jake, second by Al, any discussion by the board?
I think I actually seconded it, not Al, correct? Or did Al actually say second?
Al seconded,
You did?
yeah,
Okay, we're good.
yeah, so, motion's made and seconded, any discussion by the board? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Abstentions? Chair votes affirmative. The motion of accepting those waivers for acceptance purposes only carries. And we can now make a motion for completeness. So the application is complete because we
Yeah,
accepted.
yeah, so moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Second by Jake for completeness, motion by Jake for completeness, second by Al. Any discussion by the board? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Abstentions, and chair was affirmative. Motion is accepted as complete, and we can proceed with the presentation. We'll proceed with the public hearing, and also it starts a 65-day timeframe in which this board has to render a decision.
Question, Mr. Chairman. With respect to the waivers, do we have to say the reason, A, B, or C?
It would be good. Okay, because you can amend the motion.
So actually, if it's just for acceptance at this time, you're fine to proceed.
Yeah, in waivers.
Think that's okay, Kelly?
Correct, because if it's for acceptance only, ultimately they will be fulfilled as a condition of approval.
We'll have to accept them once we've had
Sounds
the
good.
hearing. So.
Yep.
Gentlemen. just
Thank you, Mr.
identify-
Chair. Dick Anagnos, developer, here on behalf of the applicant. To my left is esteemed Nick Golan from TF Moran. Without further ado, I'll let Nick take on the technical side of this because he's much more adept at this part of it than I am.
Thank you, Dick.
Yeah, this is rather technical anyway, so.
All right. What you have before you is an industrial subdivision of 3 existing lots. Tax map 17 lot 55 of, it's currently 26.5 acres. We're looking to increase that to 46.3. And how we're doing that is we are pulling from lot 11 and lot 13, which are located immediately to the east of the subject property. You probably recognize these parcels. These are part of a larger planned development that we hope to be bringing before the planning board very soon in an effort to acquire the necessary acreage for the project to move forward. This approximately 20 acres is being added to this subject lot, which would then in the future be consolidated with other lots that are in common ownership. So I think it might be helpful just to hear that backstory. And part of that is also the reason for what I'll say is an abundance of checklist items, in that our plan set was set up very much for that large master development. And many of the items relative to how these lots exist today were inadvertently not included on the original submittal. Although technically they are missing, I don't believe there are any items that are on there that would preclude our opportunity to move forward with the sites. We are talking about some larger areas. There's no margin really here for error. So I'm going to be fairly succinct with our presentation. This is an industrial lot line adjustment. Again, to accommodate a future development, you do have 2 waivers before you, one of which is in regards to show wetlands just in the area of development. It's a fairly typical one, I believe, that's come before this board in the past. If for some reason they were to develop other portions of those lots that are to remain, they would obviously be required to locate wetlands at that time as part of that permit approval. The second one, this one kind of harkens back to, I think, a lot line adjustment for another industrial subdivision you looked at recently. Being that this is going to be part of a future development, our access is not going to be from Mammoth Road or the portions of Akira Way in which we currently have frontage. I believe this board's actually seen a master plan in which how we would be accomplishing access to these properties. Can I give you a placeholder drawing that shows how it could be accomplished? Sure, but I'm not sure what purpose that would serve. So what we're asking for is not necessarily not to provide this item, but to defer that to be part of a site plan approval. So relative to that waiver request, there are a total of 3 items, all of which are in relationship to site distance. As are part of any typical, say, residential subdivision, you always need to see where that road is, where your access is, and what your sight lines are. And that there's already established access to all of these properties, and that the subject lot, 1755, would be part of a future development. We would like to show the access at this time. Now, if for some reason the board thinks that that's not the most appropriate use, the reason we came about this, and it was just as recent as today, is just reading through the regulations. We feel this alternative approach meets the design objectives as stated in the regulations equally or better than would compliance with the regulations. Again, can I give you a placeholder of what it could be? I could, but it obviously wouldn't be the final design.
Yeah, we don't know what the final design is going to be, and I think anything that's talked now would be speculation, so.
That is fair.
We have nothing, there's nothing concrete there. We would have to have something concrete to work on.
Okay.
So we won't speculate.
Understood.
Because it could change totally in a month or 2 months, or whatever.
Very good, sir. And again, should it be the board's pleasure that they don't think that it's appropriate, that it doesn't meet the justification for a waiver, we'll
It's just a
resubmit and
simple
provide the
lot line
information.
adjustment. so
Yep.
Let's keep it simple.
Yes, sir. So I will stop there, since there's not really a lot for me to talk about. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, we'll go to staff.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, there are design review items. Item number 2, sheet 1 of 8, includes the subdivision of a lot upon abutting lot 2829-2 to create a new lot 2929-6 that is not identified in the application submission. We note that the proposed subdivision lot line adjustment designed for new lot 2829-6 does not appear to comply with section 4413B of the zoning ordinance and section 303A of the subdivision regulations, since it does not have frontage on a class 5 or better roadway with the minimum required 150 feet of frontage. Item 3, the applicant's submittal does not include topographic information for lot 55 per section 417 of the regs. We're requesting that they update the plans accordingly. Item 4, we're requesting that they provide the proper monumentation of all property lot angle points. We're also asking that they indicate the location of abutting lot 720-0 on the plan in accordance with the regs. Also label the status class of the roadways. Item D is to provide the existing information per section 417-827 of the regs as it relates to the culverts along Mammoth Road. Sheet 7 indicates 2 separate culverts under Mammoth Road, with one shown upon lot 713. Typically, we do request drainage easements be provided on those existing culverts to allow for proper maintenance to occur. We're requesting those easements be granted. Item F, please indicate, clarify the entire zoning line on sheets 2, 4, 6, 7, and 8 of the plan set in accordance with the regs. Item G, to confirm the proposed lot number designation and addresses with the assessor. Item H, on sheet 1 of the plan set, identifies abutting lots 29-3 and 29-5 as abutters to lot 2829-6 that are not shown on the current tax map and the GIS map. Please clarify and verify that these lots actually exist. Item I, it's unknown if the existing if the existing building on lot 1713 is serviced by septic and well. Please provide the update on the plan set. Item J, plans do not indicate or label the location of the minimum 14 benchmarks needed to provide the minimum of 1 per 5 acres as required by the regulations. Lastly, item number 5 is to verify the DRC comments for the project are adequately addressed. From Public Works Engineering, I disagree with I don't support the waiver request for the driveway sightline. Again, they're creating a new lot. It's always been the practice to show that the proper site distance can be achieved on that lot. Although they're not doing anything, it's just like when they do lot sizing calculations. They prove that that lot exists, that it has the area that's required to support a lot. So that's why we ask for the site distance. That's all I have.
Okay, thanks, John. Kelly?
Mr. Chairman, I thought it would be helpful if I just elaborated a little bit further, I guess visually.
Yes, probably
Specific
would
to,
be, what's being done
Yeah,
visually, I
specific
think
to
would be
item
helpful for
2 in the design review comments and item 4H. So the parcel that the comment is relating to is this parcel right here. This is a result of a subdivision, you might recall, Mr. Chairman, Hilltop subdivision, which was, I think, approved back in 1998.
Yes, it's back a ways. It's a vague memory, but I remember, what I recall, there was considerable discussion about it at that time.
Right, so I'll try and be as brief as possible, but essentially that subdivision was two-phased. Only Phase 1 was approved. Phase 2 included essentially dividing up and creating this parcel. Phase 2 did not actually occur from a legal standpoint. The town does not recognize this as it's drawn on the lot line adjustment plan as an actual parcel. The town recognizes this as the legal parcel. So that, in short, is the comment and concern, that this is the parcel that should be shown on the lot line adjustment plan before you, not this layout as shown. This isn't a recognized lot, is essentially what the comment is saying, and that is true. It is not a recognized lot in this form that it is drawn on this lot line adjustment plan. So the expectation is that be corrected and fixed before a final approval of this plan.
Would reflect what is in our GIS system,
Would reflect
correct?
this right here.
That right there, okay.
If I can offer, Mr. Chairman and Kelly.
Yes.
It's kind of an oddity of timing, and that there was also supposed to be another application before you this evening, which was the subdivision of that lot, whereby the applicant would be acquiring a portion, which would be the portion that's identified on our plan. We have since withdrawn that application because they're now purchasing the lot in its entirety. So we had a unfortunate timing event of one application pending, another application made, and then that prior application was pulled. So this plan unfortunately reflects dated information. So we acknowledge everything that's been said, and we'll update the plan accordingly. So I just wanted to make sure that I made mention that it was somewhat a matter of timing, where we had intended to subdivide that lot when this application was submitted, but then no longer had to, as we're now purchasing that lot in its entirety. So our apologies for that confusion.
Okay, so then the correction will be made.
Yes, sir.
Lastly, Mr. Chairman, planning staff does support the waiver as it relates to the delineation of wetlands on the entirety of the site. We are supportive of waiving that requirement.
And you support waivers 1 through 8? Was we waived for acceptance purposes only?
Are you asking
No,
about the
I believe
site
the only
distance?
one they asked for a waiver on was number 8. Not
Number
1
8,
through
yeah,
8,
I'm
but
looking,
number
once
8.
we get into what to do with the waivers, whether to grant them or not.
So the board will need to act, if you're choosing to move forward, you'll need to act on 2 waivers specific to site distance and specific to the
Oh.
wetland delineation. And you'll need to provide your justification if you're choosing to act on those this evening.
Mr. Chair, I'd also offer, if there's a concern, which I have heard relative to that waiver request, to not provide that element, that being those site distance profiles, we have no issue with withdrawing that request. We thought it was the most intelligent way to address it, given that we were planning on our access from a different location. Hearing what we've heard tonight, that is speculation relative to that future project, it sounds as it would be most appropriate to withdraw that waiver request, and that information will be provided as hopefully a condition of this project.
Okay, okay. I'll go through the board now, because that's the way we do our public hearings, is the presentation or with site plan or subdivision. We have to have completeness before we start, and then staff has its input, the board has its input, and then the public has its input. One exception is the board can ask questions at any time, so. I'll start with Jason. Give you, spare you a little time there, Ted.
I mean, it sounds to me like there's just way too much that's not ready on this quite yet to really to really be able to make any kind of a decision.
We can't speculate on what's going to happen because we don't know.
Exactly. There's
And
way
you
too
gotta
many unknowns.
look at this as just a lot line adjustment.
So that's my thought.
Roger,
I think I agree with my colleague. But are we putting anything that can't be changed down today? Are we, too much that is not, I agree with him.
okay, if there are any problems, we definitely hear from staff, so.
Yeah, so I might have missed that. Is staff saying, yes, we should approve, or no?
With the staff memo.
Staff has recommended a continuance.
Okay, that's what I'm going with.
Yep. Jake,
So I'm looking at a lot of the design review items here. The only one that really does stand out is number 2, which Kelly touched on, and is seems like it's well explained. I don't see a problem with moving forward with this, so long as the conditions of approval are there and appropriate, and that all these design review items are essentially a condition of approval. There's a lot of stuff on here to me that's seems kind of like housekeeping items. Please label the status class of the roadway per section 4, blah 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 blah, so on and so forth. A lot of it seems very housekeeping in nature. The one that does stick out to me is section 2, but I understand what's been discussed, and I think I'd be comfortable making a decision on it tonight based off of what I've heard and knowing that it would be set as a condition of approval that it gets adjusted to what it actually needs to reflect, not what's currently on their plan.
Okay. Al?
At this time, I'd be more comfortable continuing it.
Okay. Lynn?
So somewhere along the way, I got lost. Could you go back to sheet one, Kelly? And we've got three parcels.
Thank you, Lynn.
Oh, we've got three parcels that are hash marked. What is the lot line adjustment and how does it affect those three
Do you-
parcels?
Nick, do you have the, highlight, the pointer?
Yes.
Do you want to give an
Narrate,
overview?
I'd be, as long as I can.
You should have control.
Is there a,
Center button.
not as familiar with this one. Does this have a, there we go. Okay, relative to.
Oh, can you do it off of sheet one so I can see the
Yeah,
big
that'd
picture?
be even better.
I want to see
Sorry, I
the
thought
big
this
picture.
was,
Sure. So relative to the application that's before you, we are talking about these three hatched lots.
Yep.
The discussion of that other lot that needs to be reshown is actually over here. That was a lot that was just shown as reference because it was an abutter to the project. So what we're doing is we're taking a little less than 20 acres from these two lots, the very back portions, and then going to consolidate them with the lot that is immediately adjacent.
You
And
know,
that
the
is the
revised
proposal.
lot lines reflected in the drawing package you have here?
Yes, the correct lot lines are all reflected in the package. The anomaly is an abutting lot.
Okay. I got lost with the discussion on the abutting lot, so.
So which lot lines are going away?
The lot line that would be removed is this line right here. Essentially, what we're doing is we're moving it back about 800 feet so that we can acquire these 20 acres and then consolidate. So this is the lot line that is being modified.
Okay.
What happens to the lot line that's going, I don't know, what do you
This
call
line?
that, at a,
West to east.
Yep. So what we're doing essentially is we're taking this line and just scooting it back and then redrawing it right here.
So can you highlight the incorrect lots on your, so they are just in a butter to this and don't have,
They don't have a bearing on the actual.
they don't have
proposal.
any actual effect to what you're doing. It's just an improper drawing on
Yep,
that.
the reference shown is out of
Correct.
date. Yes, sir.
Correct.
That- If you guys were to sign that plan, that would create a non-conforming lot.
Correct.
So-
But obviously, as a condition of approval, they'd have to adjust it to be
Correct.
appropriate.
Yep.
and the purpose of this is to get the required number of acreage to go in for the master, mini site plan, master plan,
Yes, sir.
whatever the appropriate terminology
PUD.
is. And that remaining lot, John, your concern, but your concern is that it's creating a non-conforming lot?
No, again, my concern is making sure they have sight distance onto Mammoth Road.
Looks like they got a lot of frontage on Mammoth Road there.
Yep. So show that you have the sight distance.
So site distance from 1713?
No, what is it, 1711.
Oh.
1713 has got an existing. Correct.
So that's an existing lot, so why would site distance be a concern there? I know we're creating a new lot, but I mean, it's existing conditions, right?
Now's the time to check it, though, Lynn.
But it is existing conditions.
Yeah.
What's the required site distance, do you know?
Well, again, I believe this is AR1,
Yep.
250 feet of sight distance.
So say you didn't, so if it wasn't changed, it'd be a lot of record and you could develop it. But you're creating a new lot because you're moving the lot line back and now you get yours, crack it saying whether or not it's got proper site distance.
Correct. It's a safety thing,
Do I
Johnny.
get that?
Am I reading this right? So what did you say, 250 feet?
250, yeah.
250? Am I reading that right, that if I measure it, there's about almost 800 feet of lot line there?
So you're looking at two-dimensional, so
Yeah,
three-dimensional,
okay.
what's out there,
What's actually?
what's actually out
Yeah,
there.
could be.
Yeah. Yep.
You got it.
It's relatively flat, it's an uphill
Yeah,
grade,
it
but
just
it's
goes like
relatively
this.
flat.
Yeah. Or downhill, depending on which way you're driving.
I always go up. I'm on a bicycle, it's always
But the
uphill.
thing is that if they were to go in and pull a building permit on that lot right now, regardless of whether or not it meets site distance, they could do it. and they could build something on it.
They would have to meet site distance.
No, not if it's not if it's a lot of record.
I don't think it has an existing driveway right now.
Yeah, but you could build a house on it.
Does?
It's a little bit further down, but they do all have existing
You
driveways.
could build a house on it.
There's a building on
You,
it.
you'd still need to provide site distance, Johnny.
So you would, what would that be then, a taking? Because you can't,
Wouldn't be a taking. Prove that you have the site distance, just like Nick is gonna do.
well, I don't think
What
that's
happens if you
right.
don't? It's an existing lot,
Saying
what
you
happens
can't-
if you don't?
You can't build
Then you
on
can't
it.
build?
But I don't think
Again,
that's right.
then we have to look at it closer, Tony.
Could I just clarify something? So did you actually withdraw the waiver? Okay.
Just hearing the initial sentiment and the concern, we're just going to withdraw that waiver
Okay.
relative to site distance. Let's simplify things. This is a simple industrial lot line adjustment, as was mentioned.
I think it would
Let me
so
make
the
it,
talk
let
Site distance,
me make it
we
clear.
should not be
Is a
talking
moot
about.
point.
Yeah, we don't want to get bogged down in that. That's for future discussion of whatever could happen, so.
Please consider that waiver
Anything
removed.
else, Lynn?
So I would like, if you could come back to me, I want to review the plans because I didn't understand that that's what the whole discussion was about. I got
Yeah,
sidetracked
we're
with
moving it.
where you were going with that other lot and that wasn't pertinent in my mind to the discussion, so. So if you can come back to me and after Ted,
Yeah.
I'll let you know.
I will.
Great, thanks.
Okay, Jeff?
I'm okay right now, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Anything else, Johnny?
Yeah, I mean, so if you came back, what progress would you make by moving this lot line right now versus just coming back with all the conditions and things?
The
What
difficult,
would it enable you to do?
we've already begun our updates to the plan. We expect it to be done by the end of the week. The only thing that was outstanding is the site distance element, which will take a little bit more time. It does affect the ability to close on properties. So that's the element of importance for us here, is the ability to close swiftly on the property.
Yeah, okay. I'm all set.
Okay. Tony?
So I'm glad when spearheaded the campaign here, because I had absolutely no idea what was going on in the presentation. I couldn't follow it. Usually I'm pretty on top of, but you guys did a great job of really confusing what's really a very simple thing, I know now. I'm a little bit concerned about the cart before the horse, or the horse before the cart, or the cart has no horse. But I can be convinced. That's all I have.
Okay. Ted?
I think we've heard everything at this point. I'm all set.
So I think I'm going to defer to staff's recommendation to continue this when we get to it, just based on what I've heard and what I see.
Okay. Anything else from the board? What I'll do, I'll go to the public, see if there's any abutters or any interested citizen have any questions, comments, concerns about this lot line adjustment. And just please come to the microphone, please, and name and address, please.
Hi, I'm Caroline Schultz, co-owner of Lot 1710, which is, well, you could see it on the map there. So the amount of land that's being conveyed is 19 acres, and I was wondering if that was the final
Could you
piece.
speak up a little bit, please?
I was wondering if the 19 acres that were being conveyed was the final piece that needed to be acquired to have the 100 acres for the PUD. Are you guys at 100 acres?
Yeah, we don't know the answer to that. I don't know if you just.
We'll not only be acquiring that 19, we'll be acquiring the lower piece, and we'll be in excess of 100 acres.
So you're almost there.
But we're over it by
You're
quite a
over it.
bit. I think it's going to be anywhere between 110, 117.
Okay. It seems like the planning board doesn't have an issue with this whole concept of the PUD. And, you know, I can't make it happen or not happen, but is that true? Everybody's like excited about this project and wants it to move forward.
And we don't know what's really gonna happen, and I think it's still in the planning process
Yeah.
with the applicant, so.
Because now, because
I
the
think anything is
zoning
speculative.
kind of flies out the window when you have a PUD, and I know they were denied some zoning variances in the past for trying to build residential buildings on industrial land or whatever it all was.
What's in front of us now, Mr. Chair, is not a PUD, correct? It's just a lot
Right.
line.
No, this is
right.
not a
I
PUD,
think,
not yet.
it probably has been discussed with some people, but not with us. We don't know if that is really what will be happening
Okay.
until they present us with a plan.
Okay, it's just now the project is getting so much bigger that it's rolling up behind our house where it hadn't been before. So it's a little concerning, and we'll keep our eye on the project to see what they plan to do with that land they're acquiring now through this lot line adjustment, because it is very close to our house.
Yeah, yes. You can always check in with staff also. We keep our ear to the ground on what's happening, but we can't form any reformed opinions because at this point anyway.
We just don't know. We don't know when the hurricane's coming, but it's coming. Thank you.
Correct. Anyone else? Bob? Come to the microphone, please. Just need name and address, even though I know you.
Yeah,
but this
Bob
is-
Mill, 569 Mammoth Road. One thought I'd had is that probably this is the very beginning part, and at some point, I think we should have a planning board workshop with other boards, conservation, heritage, school, and of course, staff members like public works and various other departments, school, and work on trying to see how this project is going to look and, the whole business. And the other thing is think about a site walk at some point. We could probably, if the school was going to cooperate, we could probably use the school board, superintendent office parking lot, maybe some Saturday morning, and take a site walk up there, member of the planning board and other boards and staff members, and try to get a better sense of the lay of the land. It's just my thought at this point, and thank you for your time and consideration.
Okay, you're welcome.
Yeah.
We'll keep it in mind anyway. Anyone else? I do not see anyone else. We will close the public session and bring it back to the board for discussion and decision-making.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to continue the lot line adjustment to adjust the lot lines of map 17, lot 5-5, 5 Kitty Hawk Landing, map 17, lot 11, 595 Mammoth Road, map 17, lot 13, 603 Mammoth Road, zoned industrial 1, agricultural residential AR1 and commercial 2, Londonderry Holdings LLC and Tebow Corporation of New Hampshire, and Tebow Corporation of New England owners, and Ken Solinsky applicant, to November 8th, 2023.
Second that.
Motion by Al, second by Lynn. Any discussion on the continuance by the board? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Abstentions, chair is affirmative. Motion carries, and this is continued to the 8th of November, 2023. And that is your only public notice. So remember, the 8th of November, 7 PM, right here.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and board, for your time.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, next we have is a public hearing on an application for a formal review of a site plan for the construction of a proposed 3,116 square foot bank with drive-through, associated parking and site improvements. 66 Gilchrist Road, tax map 7, lot 66, this is zone commercial 1. Chase Bank is the applicant, and Gilchrist Road Realty Trust is the owner. and we need to determine the completeness, so I'll go to John.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, there are no outstanding checklist items. Staff recommends that the board vote to accept the application as it is substantially complete and contains sufficient information to invoke the board's jurisdiction to allow the board to make an informed decision.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, motion by Al for completeness.
Second?
Second by Jake. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Abstentions, chair votes affirmative, and the motion carries, and the plan is accepted as complete. This starts the public hearing, starts the presentation, and it starts the 65-day timeframe in which we have to render a decision. So just identify yourselves for our records, please, gentlemen.
Hi, folks. Randy Myron with Bowler, here on behalf of the applicant. Also with me is Kevin Kelly with Core States Group, the project architect.
Welcome.
So thank you. So this is for the Chase Bank site plan review application at 66 Gilcrest Road. And just to give you folks a little bit of history, we have previously met with the Heritage Commission a couple of times, and they have recommended approval of the project. And I'll show you certainly the building elevations and the landscape plan. But we were before them, and we've also been before the Conservation Commission, who also has recommended approval here. But it's 66 Gilcrest Road. It's the existing Remax building. It's I think a 55,000 square foot lot with access off of Gilcrest. The proposed project, the site plan is in front of you on the screen here. It's a 3,116 square foot Chase Bank with just a drive-through ATM, kind of in the back, or I guess page north side of the building, with 24 parking spaces. And the access continues to remain on Gilcrest. I know in working with John and the engineering team, we're basically tightening up that access driveway, so it's a little bit more safe than what it is today, and we've also tried to align it with the driveway on the other side of Gilcrest. But it's a two-way driveway, again, maintaining and improving it a little bit from what it is today. And, in addition to that, we're really, I'd say, tightening up the entire project, the entire limits of pavement that are out there today. We're increasing all of those landscape buffers from what they currently are to make them compliant with the regulations. So as a result of that, there's actually a decrease in impervious surface by around 10,000 square feet. And again, that's mainly because all the buffers are being increased around the pavement limits. We're reducing stormwater runoff rates, stormwater runoff volumes. We are, I'd say, rebuilding that stormwater basin that's along Gilcrest. If folks recall, there's that basin there. It's going to get rebuilt and kind of expanded a little bit to comply with the regulations. There's new underground utilities, new water, sewer, gas, and electric services. There's new parking lot lights for safety and security purposes, 20-foot high site lights, fully dark sky compliant, cutoff fixtures, downward facing. We're minimizing the spillover onto the adjacent properties, and I believe there's a 0.2 foot candle requirement that we are complying with as part of that. And we did provide a photometrics plan as part of the plan set. And of course, there's obviously new erosion and sediment controls around the limits of work to limit any sediment from being transported off-site. And there's some fresh new landscaping being proposed too. Can we flip to the landscape plan? Yep, thank you. Yeah, I think in total there's, 19 trees, 96 shrubs, and there's, quite a bit of perennials. And I know one of the Heritage Commission's comments was to incorporate some purple lilacs, which we have done as part of the project. That's kind of a high-level overview of the site itself. I did want to also show you the building. If you can flip to the next one, Kelly. Yep. So this is the building here. It's a mixture of red brick and some clapboard siding. Again, we did meet with the Heritage Commission. and address some of their comments and concerns. I think initially it might have had, I think we had a gray brick initially, but I know after some back and forth, we went with the red. And the project architect, Kevin, is sitting next to me here in case there is questions on this. And then if we can just flip to the signage. The next ones, I just wanted to show you what, this is the, there's a monument sign that's being proposed out front. And what we've done is match the brick on the base, so it matches with the building itself. I think it looks kind of nice. Again, this was based on some comments from the Heritage Commission. And then there's just a couple building signs that are also being proposed. One facing Gilcrest and another facing, this is the one facing Nashua Road, just an internally illuminated wall sign. And then there's another one facing Gilcrest. And that's it for wall signage. Other than that, there's just your typical directional signage around the property. And that's kind of a high-level overview. I know we worked through some of the design review comments. I think there's just a couple little outstanding comments that we did just receive a letter yesterday, but very minor technical stuff that we're happy to address. Other than that, that's kind of it. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Go to staff. I'll start with John.
Randy summarized it pretty well. Again, in bottom line, the existing building goes away, the pavement out there gets tightened up, the detention pond is reconstructed, and the entrance onto Gilcrest Road is narrowed up and, again, more parallel, or directly across from the old 50 Nashua Road. So Randy summarized it pretty well. We do have minor design review items. The applicant should submit for and obtain all project permits, indicate the permit approval numbers in the permit table on sheet C301, provide copies of all permits for the planning department's files in accordance with the regs. Item 2, we recommend that the applicant provide an insulated sewer pipe construction detail in the plan set for proper construction. Item 3, we're requesting that they address items relative to the project drainage analysis. Item A, provide an updated and complete stormwater report that incorporates the recently submitted 25-year design velocities of the proposed pipe network based upon the actual flows, which demonstrate the minimum pipe velocities of 2 feet per second is achieved. Item B, we recommend the applicant incorporate the recently submitted best management practice map in the project O&M and update the maintenance log form to specifically list each BMP in the report, similar to sheet C905, to ensure each one will be inspected as typically requested by the Department of Engineering and Environmental Services. Lastly is to update the DRC, or verify the updated DRC comments for the project are adequately addressed with the assessing department and the fire department. That's all I have.
Okay, thanks, John. Kelly?
Mr. Chairman, I have no outstanding comments.
Okay. Do the board next. Start with Ted.
Looks like a great plan. I really don't have any big questions.
It's a good-looking building. I think it's a good plan. Is this building a little bit smaller than what's currently there?
It is, yeah. The existing building's around 5,700 square feet. This one's 3,100, just over that.
57, but it's 2 stories.
Correct, yeah.
Yours is 1 story, so the dog houses are ceremonial?
I'm not
The
sure.
doghouse dormers that you have on the building?
Yes, they are purely
Decorative.
decorative, yes.
I like the muttons, mullions, window dividers, whatever you call them, this month. So I hope those will stay true to these renderings. I think it's a good look, and I look forward to having this site cleaned up with a good-looking building, so thank you.
Jenny?
I don't have any comments. Good-looking building. I like with it.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to echo kind of Tony's last response there regarding just cleaning up that area. Particularly that current parking lot, there's a lot of water that does tend to kind of pool. So I want to say that obviously as this plan kind of, or as the plan gets built, I'm sure that's going, that will be leveled. And I would imagine the retention pond probably is addressing that.
I think so, yeah, and I can tell you that, I mean, the entire parking lot that exists today is gonna get removed. It'll
Yeah.
get, it'll be a brand-new parking lot with proper slopes. Everything will be pitched towards low points, catch basins, and into that basin that's being rebuilt. So, yeah, it should be a big improvement over what's out there today.
No, it definitely looks good. Other than that, I think from the landscaping aspect of it, but I really have no good comments for that. Yeah, but yeah, no, good plan. I like the design of the building.
No, I think it's going to be a good update to that corner, so.
Al,
Looks good to me.
Jake?
Yeah, I believe you guys came to us conceptually, correct? You came to the board
Yes,
conceptually,
yeah.
right? When it first showed up, it was a kind of a dark building. Obviously, you took our advice, cleaned it up a bit. I think it's a nice looking building that'll add a lot to the corner there.
Oh, yes, you will be surprised. Roger?
It looks great to me.
Jason?
Very nice. I like the additional green space that will be there from what it is now. And again, with everybody else, it's vast improvement, so.
Are there any abutters to this site plan or anyone from the public with any questions, comments, or concerns for this board? I do not see anyone. Close the hearing. Bring it back to the board for discussion or
Mr.
decision.
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to grant conditional approval of the site plan for the construction of a proposed 3,116 square foot bank with drive-through associated parking and site improvements, 66 Gilchrist Road, map 7, lot 66, zone commercial 1, Chase Bank applicant and Gilchrist Road Realty Trust owner, in accordance with plans prepared by Bowler Engineering, dated December 14th, 2022, last revised July 13th, 2023, with the precedent conditions to be fulfilled within 120 days of the approval and prior to plan signature and general and subsequent conditions of approval to be fulfilled as noted in the staff recommendation memorandum dated October 4th, 2023.
Second.
Motion by Al. I heard Jason did the second. It was a chorus there.
I gotta get one.
Chorus.
Okay, any discussions on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Abstentions, you as affirmative, and you have a conditionally approved site plan.
Awesome.
You're welcome, and you're a good addition to the community, so.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, for this next item, I need to recuse myself.
Oh, yes. Next, we have the public hearing on an yes, Ted has recused himself. Let the records show that. We have a public hearing on an application for a conditional use permit for 3,063 square feet of temporary wetland impact and 19,037 square feet of wetland buffer impact for equipment access, and this says word pad placement, so I don't know if that's work pad placement, I believe.
with the K, thank you.
Yeah. Within the Conservation Overlay District for the proposed replacement of existing structures along the existing 326, I don't know what the units are, transmission line right-of-way in the area of Dan Hill Road, Elwood Road, Severance Drive. Public Service Company of New Hampshire, doing business as Eversource Energy, is the owner and the applicant. And we need to determine completeness first, so I'll go to John.
And staff recommends, staff does recommend that the application be accepted as complete.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion by Al, second
Second.
by Jake for completeness. Any discussion by the board? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Abstentions, your vote's affirmative. And also let the record show Ted has stepped down from this.
Ask one point of clarification before we proceed with the wording in that.
Oh, yes.
So I just want to confirm that the wetland buffer impact is temporary as well. It can be read either way.
We were proposing for impact in the wetland buffer.
Is it temporary or is it permanent?
It would. Did you have something? We were not intending for it to be temporary, but it's definitely something that
Both.
we can.
There's a temporary impact and there's a permanent impact.
Okay.
That's why they're separated.
Okay, good to know.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
temporary is temporary, and then the other is permanent.
Temporary is temporary and permanent's permanent.
Very good.
Thank you, Kelly, for that clarification.
I just want to make sure we all understand.
Fantastic.
The one identified as temporary is temporary.
And the other one is half and half?
It's not temporary.
Can I make a comment, though?
Yeah.
I'm assuming that these are larger structures than that are existing there, correct?
Yep, that'll be part of it'll be about 5 to 10 feet taller just for electrical
Okay.
standards.
So are you looking for more of the permanent impact because the base is wider?
The
Or the
permanent,
right-of-way?
it would be permanent impact just for the wetland buffer, for access roads or work areas so we can go in the future.
Okay, that's all
Okay,
I
so-
needed to know.
So we have a complete application. It starts the 65-day timeframe in which this board has to write a decision. It also starts the presentation of the public hearing. So identify yourself for our records, please, gentlemen, and we'll proceed.
Sure thing. My name is Connor Madison. I'm from GZA Environmental, and this is Travis Yandow of Eversource Environmental Licensing and Permitting.
We also have Ed Kisner and Jordan McKelsley from our project services team. They're sitting back there for support needed.
Okay.
But I think I will take charge of the little spiel. Feel free to interrupt at any point if you have questions. I know this board never takes me up on that, but we are here for a conditional use permit application for temporary wetland impacts and permanent wetland buffer impacts on the 326 transmission line, which is a 345 kV line. We are proposing to replace a total of 11 utility structures throughout the town of Londonderry. I have them listed out off of Wiley Hill Road, Elwood Road, and Dan Hill Road. I know you did say Severance, but I don't believe I had that in mind, but
Okay.
we can discuss that as well. This is similar work to what we have seen in the past. Every year, Eversource goes out and inspects every single one of their lines. This is a wood pole to steel pole structure replacement. The wood poles are deteriorating from water or cracks, woodpecker holes. We're not replacing any lines, adding in any new lines, or clearing any trees for this work. This is just structure and structure. These will be about 5 to 10 feet higher than the old poles due to new electrical standards. I believe this line was installed. I have the 50s, but I truthfully haven't double-checked that one. But we do have new electrical standards today. Like similar projects, we will be abiding by the 2019 Best Management Practice Manual. That means clean timber matting in all the wetlands, silt sock, silt fence at all the wetland crossings. GZA is contracted to be out there weekly to make sure that all these erosion controls are functioning properly. As for permitting, I'll just give a quick background here. We do have federal permitting, so that is a construction general permit application. We also have state permitting, so we have all of our upland disturbances are permitted by an alteration of terrain permit. The town should have received both the application and the approval for that one, so we do have approval for the upland disturbances. As for wetland disturbances, we also have a statutory permit by notification. The town has been CC'd on the application, and I believe we are hearing back from the state. I know we just talked to them today. So we are pending approval. The town will see that approval as well. Both of those applications require extensive review with Natural Heritage Bureau for rare plants and New Hampshire Fish and Game for non-game endangered species. I'm sure you know this area is extremely sensitive with fish and game. This work will only be going on during the non-growing inactive season. So that is middle October to the end of March. So that means we're not allowed to start under requirements until, I believe it's October 15th is their timeline, to March 31st. We have to be out of there with everything restored. I know this wasn't stated in the letter that I saw, but Conservation Commission did have approval, what was it, last Wednesday? Last Wednesday, they did have some concerns about projects being restored properly. We do have requirements through the federal construction general permit and the statutory permit by notification to have restoration at least 70% to 85% germinated. We're definitely amenable to issuing a photo log or a restoration report. For the construction general permit, we actually have to do a report for them as well. So we would, if you would like to add that as a condition, it's certainly amenable to that. As far as the timeline, this is pretty much the last permit that we're looking to get. So we could be looking to start as early as mid-October, ending in March. This project spans Londonderry and Hudson. Hudson's under the same time of year restriction as well. And I think that's it, if you have questions.
Okay. What we'll do, we'll go to our staff, the board, and then the public for this. John?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I think Connor summarized it, what the replacement of these 11 poles are, what it entails. Conservation Commission has recommended approval of the CUP, and staff supports the engineering, supports the CUP as well. That's all I have.
Kelly?
I think we've covered it all, but I'll just add the applicant did meet with the Conservation Commission on last Tuesday, the 26th. In the comment that the commission made, in addition to recommending an approval of the CUP, was, again, to request that the restoration include additional ATV deterrences, like a gate or something of the sort. That's all I have.
Thank you. I'll start. Jason, we'll go through the board.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Roger?
I just have one from my own information. You're going 15 feet higher, you said, about?
I don't have it in front of me unless you do.
It's probably closer to 5 to 10 based on
5 to
our
10.
work list, yeah.
Do you make a bigger base?
They'll be slightly bigger because the steel is a little more like
Yes.
tapered, but not a whole lot bigger.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Jake?
I'm all set, Mr. Chair.
Al? I'm all set. Lynn?
So there's no need to do an upgrade south of 3, going from the block number 3 down to the Hudson line?
Not
As of now, no.
Never say never.
For the future,
Right.
yeah, it's very likely.
Okay, good. That's it.
Okay, Jeff?
I'm all set, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Johnny?
I don't have any questions.
Tony?
Just for the record, you mentioned, you glossed over a little bit, but I just want to reinforce that I heard correctly. You said 0 trees cut down.
correct, yep. Vegetation
Do
maintenance.
you have to trim any trees?
No, this right away is
No tree involvement of any kind?
correct.
Thank you.
Okay, and everything's in the right-of-way?
Correct.
Okay.
It's a fairly big right away if you're familiar.
Well, there's been issues with trees, so I just wanted to make sure you were on record and.
If there were
Understood.
trees, I
So
think it'd be good to talk to the neighbors. Let them know what's happening and get their input. But are there any abutters present, or anyone from the public, any questions, comments, and concerns in regards to the CUP? And I think we got a little bit of action out there. Mr.
Thanks for
Chairman.
sticking it through.
John had to wake me up. John Farrell, 4 Hancock Drive, member of the town council. Thank you, Tony, for asking the tree question. I have spent hours of my life that I will never receive back with Eversource about trees and right-of-ways. This particular corridor that you're going through has been a nightmare for everybody who lives out there. And Eversource has been all over the place, and I've been standing there listening to it with state senators, with state reps, and everyone else. What I would ask of this board is that part of the conditional use permit, you write something in there that tells them they have to notify every abutter, door to door, their neighbors, and tell them exactly what they're doing so that they're informed, so that people like myself and the state legislators don't have to go out there and have meetings in the snow again like we did last year and got run around for weeks. Eversource has been a good neighbor over the years, but things have changed dramatically over the last 3 or 4 years, and it has been a very unpleasant experience for the people who live along that corridor. Thank you.
Yeah, I know when Liz LaRocca was here, she did an excellent job with.
Yeah, she did a great job. She was fantastic. Nobody like her does it anymore.
Yeah, that's the concern that we have. John has demonstrated quite well. So put that in as a condition. And there's another one, I think you had said is a condition also. Those 2 conditions to add in.
Are you referring to the Conservation Commission comment?
Yes.
Something about a gate?
I'm just clarifying, is that what you're referring to? The comment from the
Or
commission?
the restoration
The restoration
photos.
comment?
Yeah, I think it's the restoration.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I just have a follow-up question.
Yes.
Yeah, to our Eversource partners. To the John's comments there, could you elaborate on what your communication plan is for the abutters? You know, what's going to go in there? You know, kind of taking back recent history, and how can we enhance that?
Definitely.
All right, we
I'm
can-
going to throw it to the two
project
people behind me
services,
here.
Ed, you want to come up?
They're the
Okay.
ones that do all the notifications,
Yeah.
so this is perfect.
So this is Ed Kesner and Jordan McCarsley. They're from the project services team at Eversource.
Yes.
Good evening. Hi.
Hi.
So my name is Ed Kinzer. I'm with the Project Services Division. I inherited this project from another project manager, Alex Green. And so at the beginning of this project, there was a letter that went out to abutters on the line. Now, that's defined through we have a team that defines who the direct abutters are to the line, and a mailing list gets provided to us as a company, and then we send that out to anybody that's on the line. We also, if there are people that are sensitive to some of the work and things of that nature, we can also add that to our list of notifications, and we're more than willing to do that. I'll be more than happy to have a conversation with the gentleman over there to hear what his concerns are and to make sure that we address them as needed. We have made appropriate notifications out to the people that abut the line, and that's kind of our position at this point, through mailers, through some door-to-door. In fact, Jordan and I were out, it's been last week, doing some door hangers and having some conversations, with some stakeholders, with some of the people that own some of the apple orchards in town, and so on and so forth. So we have made some significant efforts to engage the public, and that's kind of where we're at on that.
What's been the response from the public? You said you've had conversations by your door hangers. What's been the vibe that you've been getting?
Essentially, I think there have been some conversations that we've had where at one point there was some clearing that had been done. And I think to this gentleman's point, I guess there were some trees that were taken back to the edge of the right-of-way, which was concerning to some of your stakeholders and residents. So we heard some conversations about that. And so, again, that was property that was cleared back to the right-of-way, the edge of the right-of-way. And so there were some conversations about that. And so that was kind of some of it for the most part. And then I'm trying to think of anything else. I think that was essentially part of it. There was some questions about people doing helicopter work. There's no helicopter work that's going to be being done on this particular project. As far as notification goes for that, there was some questions there. We had conversations with some of the gentlemen from Elwood Orchards about their crops and making sure we're, mindful of their needs as far as working with them within their picking season. And unfortunately, this year was really kind of detrimental to that industry with the frost that happened in the spring. So that was kind of a tough go for those guys. So we've been engaging at many levels. We've been receiving phone calls from people as far as when we've done door hangers, engaging people there. But I think some of the, if you want to call them complaints or concerns, was when the vegetation team went out and they kind of cleared back. And that was kind of a thing that we kind of heard, you know, over and over again with people. So, yeah.
Hi, I'm Jordan McCluskey. I know Travis butchered my last name. But that's all right. I won't hold it against him, even though he's my cubicle roommate. Anyways, like Ed was saying, we've had conversations with stakeholders that have concerns with our previous work. But on the other hand, we also have great conversations with stakeholders that absolutely love what we do. Obviously, improving structures increases the reliability for everybody, but also we do a great job with our restoration efforts. And what Ed and I do specifically is we speak to these property owners, gather any concerns that they have, you know, whether it's from previous instances or just general concerns they have with our work. And we bring that back to the team, the project team, to try and mitigate any concerns. And Ed and I work with these stakeholders step by step of each process. We're out in the field weekly, just speaking to other current projects that we're on right now. We check in with property owners, whether it's phone call, in person, check the progress of the work, make sure that our contractors are respectful of the property, such as cleaning up after, you know, the week's work. And then we see the tail end of it as well when the project is completed and the restoration efforts begin. We want to leave the property as it looked before, if not better. And we've had some great conversations with our previous work and you know, with the upcoming projects that we have as well. So it's not all negative. There is actually a lot of positive conversations we do have with stakeholders.
And on top of like how things are monitored, you know, we have not only the contractors on the site, but also our environmental.
Can you get a little closer to the microphone, please?
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. So as far as monitoring progress goes, as the project goes day over day, week over week, et cetera, not only do we have our partners in the environmental teams that are monitoring things, we also have our project managers that are monitoring things, that are overseeing the large scope of the project, but we also have our construction reps that are kind of working hand in hand with the contractors on location, and they're checking in with those guys as well and monitoring progress as things. And so if there's any concerns or anything like that, that the project that we see from constituents or from stakeholders, those are things that we relay to the project team to say, hey, listen, we got a gate on this property. It's not getting locked up at night. Somebody, you know, took a four-wheeler up there that's concerned with the property owner. Okay, fine, let's get that gate locked up, or whatever the case may be. So we are trying to do that conduit, that forward-facing piece to, you know, work with landowners, work with stakeholders, municipal officials, find out what their concerns are, and just make sure that, you know, we're checking the blocks and doing the best we can. Okay?
I have one comment, and
Sir.
you actually brought it up about the gates.
Yes, sir.
I would highly recommend if you have gates, you lock them, and you
Sir.
make sure your local fire departments have access to those gates.
Yeah, I mean, so in typical fashion, with some of those things, what we'll do is we'll daisy chain, where it's kind of a combination of lock to lock on a chain. So obviously, we would want to promote public safety, public well-being when it comes to forest fire protection, make sure that any municipal official has access, you know, to gates, and also work with property owners to make sure that, you know, they're aware of that, you know, if the fire department needs to get out there, whatever the case is, that there's availability to do that, whether it be for search and rescue, you know, lost hiker, whatever the case is, but be able to have that availability.
Thank you.
So based on, thank you, Mr. Chair. So based on, and Jeff had a great question, but based on my experience.
Yes, sir.
The initial door hangers are the easy part, right? So people get the door hanger, they say, oh, something's going on, they call in, you explain something.
And also, on top of it, we do a mailer. So there is actually stuff that goes, just to be clear.
Yeah, got that part.
Okay,
But everything's fine until someone gets a stick in the eye.
Yep.
Because once the project starts, it's a whole different playing field.
Sure.
Because I didn't know the trucks were going to be that big. I didn't know it was going to be that noisy. I didn't know they were going to start at 8:01. I was hoping for 8:15. All kinds of things happen once the project starts because reality hits, okay? So, and that's just typical of humans. You know, it's easy. They look at a piece of paper. They say, how bad could it be? And then all of a sudden the trucks show up and whatever. So my comment to you, daisy chaining off of Jeff here is that you reach back out to people to say, hey, how are we doing? What are your concerns? What's going on? Our crews aren't supposed to start at 8. Are they starting at 7:30? So that you can continue to get that feedback, because it's way easier to do that than to have those people calling the chairman of the town council at 6 o'clock in the morning saying, there's a truck in my front yard, or whatever. So my suggestion is take it one step further, or 2 steps further, whatever you think is appropriate, to make sure you're reaching out back again to those abutters to say, hey, how are we doing? Because you all have a plan, but you also have subcontractors.
Yes, sir.
Right? And if the subcontractor sees we had 3 days of rain and now the sun is up at 5 o'clock and we got to be out of here by whatever the end date is, and we're 27 hours behind already, they're going to want to start at 5 o'clock, right? They're not supposed to, but you're not there, you know? So the implication is that they're going to self-check and self-regulate. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I mean, I'm on plenty of construction sites. So my suggestion to you is, please, for your own benefit and the benefit of the volunteers that work on these boards and the town council and all the other folks, that you recheck with people as a double check to see how are we doing. So that would be my suggestion.
Yeah, and I feel like that's an important part of stakeholder engagement. I understand that I think you hit it right on the head, where there's everything on the front side, which is really, really good,
Yeah.
but it's the follow-up on the back end that really counts.
Yeah.
And
Because everyone's friends at the beginning.
I get
but
it.
the goal is to be friends at the end.
No, and that, and honestly, and I'm gonna throw it out there. Jordan and I are new to the company, okay? We want to do a good job, and I want to make sure that, I come back here, if you see my name or his name on the agenda, whatever the case is, okay, yeah, these guys came through with what they said they're gonna do. I don't want their, I got a reputation, and I want to make sure it's solidified in good standing here with the board and other boards as well. It's important for me to make sure that stakeholders are in a good spot, and that we communicate well. Is every day going to be a sunshiny day? No. Are we going to fall down? Yeah. But it's what we do when we do fall down, I think, is what really counts. And I would just say that, we're gonna do our best to make sure that people are informed.
Thank you. I appreciate your comments.
Yes, sir.
Just one more additional thing, just to speak to your point about the stakeholder engagement. Ed and I are currently working on a separate project where there was concerns of OHRV use on the right of way. So we actually went back to the team and were able to install a gate for this specific portion of the land. And we were out there today to speak to the stakeholders and to hear their thoughts on things. And they're actually very happy that the gate was installed. I think it was about a week turnaround that the concern was brought up. We brought it back to the team, and we had a gate installed almost immediately. So we do a good job of reaching back out and keeping a pulse on key stakeholders and abutters of the project. And we will continue to do so.
Thank you.
John?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do know Alex Green. He was the person I dealt with on this last project and everything. And as he mentioned, I sit on the town council. Here's the issue. When it gets to me, and it has for the last 8 years, and I wind up out there on site, it's because nobody followed up. It's because they didn't do all the things you just said. I'll be very candid with you. It wouldn't get to me if that was what was going on. And that's the past history. So I would strongly suggest you go back and look at who the abutters were who were affected by all this cutting. Go talk to them. They're going to be the ones that have something to say about what it is that you're doing. Open up a communication and relationship. I don't want to be out there having these conversations with you in the middle of of winter, and and all this. But if you guys got to get more proactive, and it's not just you guys. I'm not talking about you. It's EverSource in general. They come in front of the council, and then National Grid comes in, and they say blah 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 blah. Okay, and I have the same conversation with them. Nobody seems to listen to what Tony's saying. If you don't do that, I can promise you that this council in this town will be very active, and we'll have a lot to say about it, and we'll hold you accountable. All I ask is that we understand you have work to do. We just need you to do everything you just said. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
And I appreciate your candor, and I think at the end of the day, you know, and if you don't, just kind of stay right where you're, because you may want to comment, is that for us to engage, it's not only stakeholders, it's people like yourself. So, you know, I would say that I want to have a conversation with you after this meeting, so we can actually have a good conversation. And no, I'm just saying, like, I think that's important, because if we're looking at this thing from a global perspective, to kind of really get granular on some of the things that you're talking about, I think it's worth us, you know, having a meeting and getting a conversation. So I think that would be a smart business move for us.
Give you some sort of an idea. The planning board chairman's been sitting there since 2006.
Sure.
He's 40 years consecutive in the town. The guy who asked you about the gates is the retired fire chief.
Yep.
I'm 14 years on the town council.
Sure.
There's people in this room highly invested.
Yep.
Okay? There's a commercial realtor in this room that knows more about it, and his family's been here for years and years and years. People in this community care, and they're gonna say something.
Sure.
So, but that's how we feel about things.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Okay, anyone else from the public?
I just have a quick follow-up question.
Yeah,
I
I'll go
apologize.
right back to the board,
Okay.
I'll close the public hearing part of it, and board.
Yeah, just really quick, Kelly, how many positive interactions have we had from residents saying Eversource has done a great job?
So I have not directly received those
Yeah.
comments.
And I think it's great that you guys do share. I think it is awesome that you are sharing the positive interactions, but I can't. It's really important that you take this feedback that you're receiving tonight and be proactive, because I have seen it. I've only been on this board for about 3 years, but I've seen a lot of reactiveness from Eversource and other kind of utility organizations, and we're at a point we have to be proactive. And you're both new to Eversource from your references. I would assume that they, previous Londonderry projects have recaps that I would hope that you can go back and refer to, get those stakeholder names, really kind of like, definitely kind of show us the partnership that you really want to kind of continue here, and take those initiatives. So best of luck.
Thank you.
Tony?
Yeah, I think, so you walked into a little bit of a bee's nest. Okay, so it happens. I've been there. I think the positive comment thing is a little bit odd, because in 2023, there aren't a lot of people that are gonna pick up the phone or one of these things, whatever they are, and call Kelly and say, hey, I just want to let you know that Eversource did a great job. That's just not how life works. If they're not happy, that's when they pick up the phone and start calling everybody. And
So I just want to, can I
think
just
it's a little-
clarify? So I don't get the calls.
Yeah.
I
Public
think
Works
the
does.
Public Works and the chairman of the council get the calls. So
But it's
just want to
un-
clarify that.
But it's unusual.
positive calls either.
Yeah. But it's unusual. Come on, let's put it all in, we're putting everything on the table. People don't call to say they're happy. They just don't. It's just not human nature. And so, the part that we're striving for, I think, is the no calls at all, which is the same as getting happy calls.
Yeah.
That's really where, that's the rules of the game, I think, as one person. So, no calls should be a goal.
And again, we do have, some lists of sensitive abutters that who are not actually abutters.
Well, yeah.
So
Absolutely.
that, we reach out to, and we've had
There's
conversations.
Yeah, there's an interest, because those that go beyond the abutters, there's interest there also.
Right, so the things that we know, we can definitely address. And I think, like with anything, sometimes, something will pop its head up, and, we'll have to triage it and address it as the best we can. But the things that we know, Mr. Rugg, that we're aware of, we'll definitely take action on, and we have.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'd like to say one thing. I would agree, be proactive instead of reactive. And with that, I'd like to make a motion to
Oh,
approve.
can I add one thing too?
I got a motion on the floor here.
I don't have a second yet.
Have a second.
Johnny.
And I'll second it after I
Thank you.
finish. After I finish.
Thank
after I
you.
finish. One of the things that because I've had you folks on my property doing some work, and one of the things that I find extremely annoying, and actually you did a good job.
Was that just a positive comment?
Yeah, but I didn't call
Can I
him
just
about
chime
it.
in briefly so that you close
So-
the public hearing? So I just want to be
Yes, the
cognizant
public
of
hearing is
procedure.
closed.
Well, I just wanted to add one more thing because I thought all the comments were spot on, but
We're
Make-
still working with our,
make sure, this is quick if you let me just get it out. Make sure if you folks change your positions, you also follow through with telling who the next person is in line.
Yeah.
That's replacing you.
Yep.
Because that's been my frustrating part, is that I'll have a concern and I go and I try, all you get is, this person doesn't work here anymore. And so you develop a relationship, things are getting done, and all of a sudden you're like, well, where the hell who do I call now? So
Okay.
that's, I think, is important in addition to all the other stuff. And I'll second your
Thank you.
motion.
Okay, I have a second, but I need the motion first. Al?
He already made a motion.
Yeah, I made a motion to grant the conditional use permit, Mr. Rowe.
However, are we going to add the two conditions that we've talked about?
Yes.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, so, I've got a motion,
Second.
two conditions, I
Second.
have a second.
Third.
Any further discussion by the board? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Abstentions, chair votes affirmative, and conditional use permit has been granted, and please work with people. People appreciate the personal contact. That is the secret and the follow-up. And any problems or anything, work with staff, please. So,
Yep. Great.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time.
thank you. Okay, other business. We have a public hearing for the adoption of the 2023, which is the fiscal year 2025 to 2030 capital improvement plan. The proposed plan can be viewed online or during business hours in the Planning and Economic Development Department. And I want to show that Ted is back, and he was not part of the vote, so it's a 7-0-0 vote on that. So, the whole capital improvement plan is specified in the statutes. RSA 674 of actually 5 starts it, and it goes to 8. It's basically a planning document. It aids the governing bodies, which is both the town council, the school board, and the budget committee in their budgeting process. The CIP is really a recommendation. It's an expression of needs of the community, and it's needed for impact fees and growth management ordinances, which we don't have. And it aids in helping the planning board determining whether a subdivision is premature or is scattered, and that is regards to the public services that are provided. So I just want to thank the CIP committee, Jake Butler, who's chair, Jeff Pender, both from the planning board, Ted Combs from the town council, Bob Slater, chair, and from the school board, and Laura Meyer, who's from the budget committee.
Sarah?
Sarah.
Pardon?
Sarah.
Sarah Meyer.
Oh. Uh-oh. So.
She'll forgive you.
I'll correct that. Sarah Meyer from the budget committee. So, also, we've had able help from Kelly. And I think Ben probably has made some contribution to this also. Certainly our staff, Jason Campo and Lisa McKinney from the school board, and especially from Bob Slater. And it's a good effort on your part. So, thank you. So I'll turn it over to Kelly to carry the ball further.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as you indicated, This process is in accordance with Section 5.5 of the Town Charter, as well as RSA 674:5. This document is a document that is formally adopted by the Planning Commission, the Planning Board, and is meant to be used as a tool for the Town Council and Budget Committee through the budget process. So this evening, we are seeking a formal adoption from this board of the plan before you. We have 4 school projects and 1 municipal project this year. I will defer to the school and our very own Dave Wally to give the overview of the projects. But I did want to note, specific to the Lions Hall, Dave did give an overview of where we are currently with regard to the Lions Hall Community Center project. We have posted this afternoon an online form to our website, which is intended for residents or anybody who wants to provide input specific to the Lions Hall. And we are also holding a listening session on October 14th from 10 to noon right here in this room with regard to the Lions Hall.
Okay. We'll do the presentations, and I think what we're looking for, we're going to be discussing the merits of one project or another and what it's worth, and how it all fits together in the CIP plan. And the intent is to keep the tax rate at a nice, even level, in theory. So we don't like the spikes, depressions. The thing is, it creates problems budget-wise also. What do you do with the extra money? Of course, when you give it back to the people, the tax rate goes down. The next year, it goes right back up again, and then you hear the complaints. So who wants to start? I think, Dave, you led last time. I don't know, maybe we'll hear from the school first. So basically, anything to add?
Mr. Chair, can I take note first that certainly our numbers have really changed with these projects, and as well, there were new developments with the school board that had happened last night. Is that correct, Bob?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'll hit on that. Our meeting last night, the building committee that we put in place roughly 2 months ago to vet the project, something the school side's never done before. We've put some new tools, out there to use to get things vetted prior to deciding whether to move forward with a project and get some expertise in the field. We had actually put a building committee together of professionals, project engineers, managers, construction architect, community members, of course. And they were in place for about 2 months and met with the architects, met with our OPM, project management team. Kindergarten committee did tours and then had several meetings to vet this project to see if the number and if it was viable to do it in the way we have it laid out with 1A and then 1B full day. They presented last night to the school board and brought forward some good recommendations, and unanimously of a 5-person board brought a vote in to move forward with the full project of 1A, 1B, and full day to the school board. The school board then deliberated with their recommendation, more information from Lisa and Dan, the superintendent, and we had made a decision last night, 4-0, 1 member missing due to work, to move the project forward this year to the ballot. The numbers had changed a little bit. It's a total of about $34,200,000 total package that it was presented by the architect and project management team, and that's the number that was vetted through the building committee and presented to us last night.
Okay. So we will update those numbers, and I don't consider that a substantial change. It's just updating the numbers because it's kind of a process.
Sure.
But, I mean, the project is there. We know it's been approved by the, at least to this point, the school board.
To move to the ballot, that's correct. So there's a lot of work to get to that point, but that's where it's at now with the school board.
Yep.
So
question for you, Kelly. When we presented this, we had it in phase one, phase two.
Yeah, I'll go through
And now
it.
that the project is going to be one project, do you want me to update the numbers in phase one and phase two, and we keep it that way? Or are we going to combine them into one project for the CIP?
If the update is to make it one project and one budget,
It is. They
one
voted last
financial
night.
request,
Yes,
then please send me that
Sheet.
update and we can add it to the spreadsheet.
will do.
As long as the board's okay with that.
Yeah, I think we need what is current,
Yes.
what we know.
Yep.
Because
So I'll
if
update
what we have, were presented last month gets out, that's not
Sure.
accurate.
Agreed.
Yep,
Yep.
I'll update that and get that.
Thanks.
So then should we wait? Should we not do anything tonight and just
I
wait?
think we can go with it, because they've got the numbers, we don't have it on the paper, to show like that,
I would think internally the staff can update the numbers on this piece of paper.
which has been done in the past.
Okay.
It's just to keep it as accurate as possible.
But we're gonna keep it as two separate projects, did I hear that, or?
No, it'll be
No,
one
one
We're gonna
project.
combine into one.
Be one now,
number-
Lynn.
One
Yeah.
number one priority
one.
project.
Correct.
Yeah, that's much simpler to present.
Yeah, and I'll just hit a little bit, if you don't mind, on part of the reasoning of majority of the board is the education piece, that the full-day kindergarten, is needed with our programs as well as kindergarten for the future of our education programs as we try to, get our education ratings back up, where they are. This is one helpful way to get us, and as most of you know, we implemented the one-to-one program at the middle school, all 3 grades this year. That's going to help us there. But the key factor here was to hopefully get the voters to approve full-day kindergarten. And then the space needs are a key factor as well with our programs. And this will house the classrooms as well as the programs and some staff room as well, as some of the programs now utilize the hallways to work with these children, and that where we've run out of space. So it will remove the portables if this is approved, and and that's a cost of approximately $45,000 every 2 to 3 years for a lease. So those will go away, but this will serve as, and it'll take a capacity of 300 to 340 students. So there is some room there, and with some work with the architect team, there is room to expand if it ever got above that, and that was looked at as well. So if we were short and needed to expand, there still would be room on the property many years down the road. So all that was looked at by the building committee as well, so.
Mr. Chair, I'll chime in as I am on the building committee for the kindergarten, that this also addresses a lot of the security needs, a lot of safety needs, and there's a lot of the healthcare needs for many of the students who go there, as certainly a lot of the healthcare needs for a lot of the students have really increased over time, and the small space that they have currently is just not sufficient. And being able to get, the safety end of all the kids out of the hallways that are currently there, and as well out of closets and small rooms that have special ed, and a lot of the speech therapy classrooms, to be able to actually have them be in real classrooms will be a true benefit for the education going forward.
Okay, anything to add? Staff? I'll go through with the board. Anything else, Ted?
The only other item that was big from the building committee was that the, I guess, how should I say, the cost prevention to pass this coming year would be huge compared to if we push this out to further years, as the cost escalations and the inflation of labor and materials we've all been seeing across the board has been going up a good deal over time. And the compounding factor, if we push this out a few years to 5 to 6 to 10 years, this project will greatly escalate over time.
I think I could add too that the building committee also said last night that by splitting the project up, in two phases actually ends up costing you more money.
Yes.
You have startup.
Step twice.
Yeah, you have startup costs and finishing costs. So if you do that in two phases, it would actually cost us more,
Yes.
along with the escalation of time. Costs aren't coming down. So they had recommended that, put it into one and just try to get the support of the voters.
Yes.
That and also the other end was, a big concern was a confusion of voters. If we split this into 2 votes or 2 multi-year votes, we had a big concern of voter confusion,
Yeah.
saying
Might get one, not the other.
one or not the other, or have people saying, didn't I already vote for this? So we wanted to make this more simplified for people in many respects.
Tony?
Yeah, so I think that, I think it's unfortunate that the taxpayers are, no matter how you do it, are gonna be confused that kindergarten costs so much. But by the same token, the school board's been beat over the head for the past 10 years about test scores. Full-day kindergarten, as one person's opinion, is step one to getting test scores better. There are many towns in the state that were able to implement full-day kindergarten just by the superintendent and the school board saying, next year we're having it, because there was no capital cost to it. In Londonderry, we don't have that advantage. There is a capital cost to it because you don't have a building for full-day kindergarten. So you're really doing 2 things in one vote. You're saying, yes, I want full-day kindergarten, and yes, I'm willing to pay for it. And that's going to be a task that quite a few committees have said they're willing to take on, and I wish everybody the best of luck.
Thank you. Gianni? Jeff?
Yeah, no, I have nothing other to, can't talk tonight.
One of those nights.
I'm good, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Lynn?
No, I have nothing to add.
Okay, Al?
Yeah, I do have something to add. Looking at this, 1A is priority 2. 1B is priority 5. So, if we vote tonight to accept this document as the CIP, this is the CIP that the planning board has adopted. I agree with Tony on that.
Are you looking at the right one?
Yeah.
This is the one that I have.
Look at the far right-hand
Oh,
column.
all the way to the right, they're priority 1s and 2s.
Oh, okay. All right, well, right.
Throwing us for a curveball there, Al.
That's okay.
You gotta be
You know, my
scrambling here,
bad,
looking
but,
for,
I guess the thing, if you're gonna, I agree 100%. Building them both out saves money on infrastructure like you wouldn't believe. I agree with that. But if we vote on this the way it shows here, the public is gonna look at this and say, okay, now we got 1A, 1B, and this is the official CIP document. And then you're gonna say later, well, no, we combined them both. And I think it's gonna be very confusing, and I don't think people will be very happy, so.
I think we're going to combine it
Yeah.
on the CIP, correct?
So,
They're
once
gonna
the board is ready to make a motion this evening to adopt the plan or not, you would include that you will be combining the 2 projects, and I will update the spreadsheet accordingly.
That's perfect. I just wanted to make that perfectly clear for everybody that it will be done that way tonight.
Yes, so the final approved document will reflect these 2 projects being now one.
Kelly, can I ask how the scoring would work being combined?
Yes,
Just for
so
clarity.
this board should also clarify how you want to prioritize one project now that it's going to be one.
Yeah, is that something we should discuss now, or?
You can.
Mr. Chairman, if I could be heard, as someone who ran the CIP for 15 years, if you're combining these projects based on what I observed of the CIP, you would just move 1B to 1A and leave the scoring of 1A. Because the scoring was done based on the secondary project, but to feed into the first. I don't think the scoring changes other than the top one supersedes and becomes the score, and you just move into it.
I would agree with
In,
that.
in my opinion, as the person who ran CIP for 15 years.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I don't
You know, it's
think
not
anyone.
touchscreen. I was trying to do that last time. I don't think
I
it's
saw
really
you do it last
touchscreen.
time.
I know,
I
it's
thought it
not. I
was.
was sitting there just pressing it. It's not touchscreen.
Okay, anything else, Al?
No,
Okay,
that's
we'll,
good. That cleared everything up, and everybody out there knows now what we need to do and how we're gonna do it.
Yes. John's got things straightened out for us. Jake?
I'm pretty good. I'd have to agree with a lot of what's been said, and I do think that having a full-day kindergarten is going to make a very big impact in the success of our students, you know? It's much like a house. You've got to need a strong foundation for a good house. We don't have a strong foundation right now with our kindergarten. As a parent who's currently in this phase of their life, it is, I don't know how they do anything in the time that they're in the kindergarten, you know?
I know when
God
we had
bless
a
you.
tour last year, I was just amazed at what gets done there.
It was
It's just not the
2.5 or
facility
3
there.
hours
There's all
of
sorts of
time.
problems, and it's absolutely amazing that you get a good product out
Yep.
of that.
I think this is, in my opinion, is long overdue. And I think that if it does go through, hopefully it does go through, I think you will start to see better test scores, and because you're getting a more well-rounded, educated student. So,
Thank you.
agree
Roger?
with everything else.
I think I spoke the last time, and I'll say it again. Any penny you spend here is worth $10 every year in the next. The kids need this to get going. And I would remind you, I went to work at South School, a brand-new school that was already cut out the art room because they were overcrowded to begin with. The second year it was in it started. Make sure you can get a couple of years out of whatever you're doing before you do it. And any trainer or anybody will tell you, the earlier you start somebody doing the right thing, children in kindergarten, to get going, they'll carry that for the rest of their lives. And that's what we need. And if it's 34,000 or
34
whatever-
grand.
I'll do it tomorrow. I don't care. What it is, hey, don't cheap out. Yeah, I'm old. $34,000 used to be a lot of money.
See,
Now
we
it's
should have done it
30
back then.
34 million today isn't probably what 34,000 was. But anyways, I just wanted to make that comment. And it never got better. I was there 4 years and we kept losing more and more kids in the same amount of space. It was just, so please spend the money correctly, but spend it.
To your point, Roger, that's the reason we did the building committee, we did the kindergarten committee, combined all the information for the future.
Yes.
And we have a foresight for any additional room many years down the road if that's needed. So a lot of thought goes into these projects now, and a lot of, our master plan, which is in place for all the buildings for the future. Now you can start looking at it a lot sooner and plan much better. So thank you for those points, though.
At full build-out, what is the total enrollment that it can handle?
3 to 340.
340. And you're at what now, 200?
This year's low, it's like 207, but we usually run 250 to 260, 270.
I think you'll see that number change drastically.
I do
when
too.
you have a full-day kindergarten.
We're doing a study now, the superintendent, so we should have that number in a couple of weeks. We've hired a company to go out and do a study with all the real estate and other daycares and other programs that offer full
I would
day.
be willing to guarantee there's a lot of people who just aren't sending their kid to the kindergarten right now.
Yeah, so I think,
We think that might be what has happened.
yeah.
Potentially hearing all the talk about full day K that maybe they have sought out, because it is an unusually low number this year.
Yeah.
And I think there's a fair amount that may not be doing anything.
Yeah,
Because of
which is
cost
even-
of
correct.
programs, and they
Absolutely.
just can't afford it.
Absolutely.
So I think, like I said, this is based on education, and I really think, especially with our programs, getting them started sooner and more hours in that program will help them grow out of the program, at a younger age and that. So, That's the main reason for this.
When you say the number of kids, there's two. There's a morning kindergarten now and an afternoon.
That's correct.
Is that the
That's
count?
total.
That's the total of
Yeah,
those
and then
two?
LEAP varies with birth dates, so that changes every month. As they become 3 years old, they're eligible to come in, so.
But the other thing is, I'm sure, as you just mentioned, there's a lot of people paying for all-day care once they get it paid for.
Yeah.
And I think the YMCA sends a bus.
Yep.
And after school,
Yep.
and they go right there,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, there's a significant amount of transition time. I mean, if you think about for our current half day, they're in class for an hour and a half, 2.5 hours. Because it's a central location, a bus ride could be 40 to 55 minutes both ways, on both, and then it's great for our kids, it's great for the families but it's also great for our town, to have the infrastructure to support a full day kindergarten program. It's just, looking forward to seeing how it all kind of plays out. But I definitely think that bumping this up to one makes the most sense.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Jason.
Yeah, I completely support it. I mean, there's absolutely no reason for kids to be getting educated in hallways and closets. So this is absolutely needed. And it was needed 10 years ago, and now it's definitely needed now.
I was educated in hallways and closets at South School. Explains a lot, right?
Actually, the rest of the classroom was in the classroom. It was just you that was in the closet.
I was gonna say, was that a discipline problem?
Mr. Chair, I just want to add in that I really want to commend our third-party group, Trident, and the third-party group that did the estimating end. They were a huge benefit for the building committee to be able to come up with the right recommendations for the school board. And as well, they were able to also help pinpoint cost-saving items over time. And Jeff pointed out one of them, but didn't really go into it, is the busing savings of just running busing at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day compared to basically 4 times a day is actually one of the savings. And as well, the other item is increase in actually revenue from the state by moving to full-time that
Yes.
not a lot of people touch upon.
Right now, we only get half of the adequacy for those students because they only go half-time. So if they were there all day, we would get 50%. It would double.
Right.
So I think too, I think it's from a marketing and advertising standpoint, it's going to be very important for the community to understand that there's also a lot of other children in that building.
Yeah.
It's way more than just kindergarten.
Yes, sir.
Way more. And the general population in the town,
Doesn't
I
understand.
guarantee, does not know that.
Yep.
And so that's going to have to be part of the deal as well to help them understand. It may be only 150 kindergarten kids, but there's also another 100 of
100
these
plus.
and another 40 of these and 30 of those.
Yeah.
With all the different programming that's going on there with the 3-year-olds and the special ed kids and all
Pre-K,
the
yeah.
services
And the special needs.
and the
that-
special
that
needs
brings-
kids and
that brings.
and whatever. So it's
Deliver that.
so we're talking about kindergarten,
Mm-hmm.
but we're also talking about the all of the programming in the kindergarten building.
That's correct.
And so it's more than 140, 150 kindergarten kids. That's all I'm saying, and the
And-
word's got to get out.
And to your point, Tony, this building was built in 2000. Kindergarten in 2000 is not what it is in 2023. It's evolved, it's changed as it has in all our buildings with the programs, and those have really expanded. And that's where a lot of our space needs are needed at this time for those services. So we want to make sure they get that quality service as well as the education, and that's the reason for, I think everybody came to the conclusion that let's do the full day for the education portion and the space needs for our programs to help those students as well, so.
Yeah, and to that point, when Roger and I were in kindergarten, he's a little bit older than me, but all the kids were lined up in their little rows, and there was a chair and a desk and a teacher in the front teaching penmanship. No such thing as penmanship anymore, but now you have kids in the classroom, and you have 4 aides, 7 wheelchairs, 3 walkers, a nurse, and all kinds of other stuff going on in that classroom, which is why the State Department of Education said classrooms now in a newer building need to be larger.
Correct.
To accommodate those types of things. So it's changed
Dramatically.
a lot.
Yes.
So,
In the last 20 years, I'm finding it has changed a lot.
Yeah.
What's required. You really get into special needs and
Yep.
the whole education process has changed, so.
Well, to your point, it was great to have the planning board last year go through the visits, as well as our budget committee in town goes through it every year. So they've also seen, the difference, and as well as most of you on this board seen it last year, so we
Yeah.
thank you for taking that tour.
It's an education.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
And a good institution. Jason?
Would the school stay open during construction, or would they have to go to other schools during that time?
Yeah, it'll be phased out in that. So the 1A would go on first, which is 3 classrooms and some other additional rooms. And that will, then they would be able to bring the students in the back of the building. The front of the building will get a new vestibule, and all the offices would be moved to the front of the building to open up. So all the classrooms are in there, the space needs where the portables are. That gives us a spot to put those students in that small 1A. And then they would start phase 2 as well as full-day kindergarten wing while we still have school. And that'll be phased out through LaValle Brenzinger, the architect firm that has done our master plan, as well as working on each building project with us. And that's their specialty, so that will be set up by the construction management team that we end up hiring. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, this is a public hearing. I just want to, at this moment, just go to the public, see if there's any, as far as the school is concerned, any questions, comments, concerns.
Do I get to speak now?
Y-
Oh.
Yes,
As the
there's
only
always
person
the,
who's here for the public hearing?
there's always the opportunity for the public to speak at the right place, the right time.
I'm really happy to be here. This is like over $100 million between this and everything else. It's probably the largest CIP in the history of the town. I highly encouraged everyone to come here. I emailed the chairman to ask him if this could go first because I figured there'd be so many people here to talk about it, and nobody showed up to talk about it. Nobody.
No, you did.
Over $100 million.
Yeah.
And nobody came. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Means they're all going to pass.
I'm surprised too, but there's many surprises in the
I do have one more
volunteering for the
question.
town. I'd like to move along, Roger, we have the town side to do, so. I think we've milked this enough, so. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations, Lisa, on your retirement.
And the work begins. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah.
that. Thank you.
We don't want to.
Okay, so we get the school projects taken care of. I think I'd split this up, but school goes first because I think it's gonna be.
Did you have any other questions on the other 2?
SAU with the high school.
Those are a few years.
Those are a few years, yeah.
Down the road.
I think they're just kind of like, we view more as.
Nothing's
as a
changed
know
on
they're
them.
there.
Nothing's changed on those tonight, but we
Yep.
just wanted to update you on what
Yeah, I
we,
think the most important is what's gonna happen.
what's going to
in the immediate
happen.
future.
Yep.
Sure, agree.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome. And our town side is the old Lions Hall, or the old Town Hall, or if Ann was here, she'd.
There's been a lot of conversation and name on it. I think it should just be the Dave Wally Community Center, personally.
Respectfully, no, thank you. No, thank you. You got the old part right, that's for sure.
You're young, Dave.
Just some light commentary, since we were here last reviewing the building. When we put the CIP submittal together, that was back in May and June, coming into July. At that point, we didn't even have a contract signed to do a conceptual draft of it. That presentation was Monday night in front of the town council. And the premise of that task was to reopen the building, meeting all of today's codes and requirements, and restoring the services or the availability, if you will, to what it was before it priorly closed. It is a 254-year-old building. It is a municipal-owned building. And it's not something that was planned or forecasted, but yet here we are, and we have to deal with it. In CIP, I understand what that stands for, and the projects that come before it are usually obviously surrounding education, public safety, infrastructure. And so this project is kind of unique because it really speaks to the heart of a community. And it's almost a gut check moment that we're at a crossroads to what we do with the facility and what does it mean to the town of Londonderry, what does it represent, and what kind of services or usefulness do we think that the taxpayers could get out of the facility or do without having it. And so just for some numbers, last time I believe, Lynn, you had asked, what is it costing us right now to just leave it as it is? And we now have a year's worth of electrical bills, running it obviously at the lowest temperatures possible. We've spent $1,440.32 for 12 months with Eversource on that. And then outside of, some targeted lawn mowing and whatnot, there really isn't any other general expense to the facility other than that. Being an old structure, keeping the heat as low as possible and the AC off or turning it on when it's perhaps extremely hot, the types of materials and the age of the building will obviously degrade as time goes on. So that kind of speaks to the urgency of the project being now, but because we just don't know how much it will change with the types of climate changes you have in a facility of that age. So the new updated numbers brings the building to about $3.5 million. Again, going with a conceptual plan of making it available to the way that it once was before we closed it. As you already have announced a couple of times this meeting, we're going to have a meeting on October 14th to now get a lot of community feedback on that. And then there'll be some more public outreach from there as well, depending on what we learn on that date. And, revise plans if necessary, scale them back, increase them, depending on what we learn. And that's about it.
Okay. Anything for the staff?
So just if the board could clarify, you'd like me to update the cost to reflect 3 to 4 million as opposed to 1 to 2, and that you are all set with priority 1.
Yep, I would say that we need to update those numbers to be as close to information that we have at the time of the CIP.
Okay.
I'll go through the board. Ted?
Dave, you had electrical numbers, but do you have heating numbers as well for the past year, or no, not right now?
Well, as far as I did not get the gas for the heating system itself, but it's a forced hot air, so a lot of it is electric as well. But
Oh, okay.
yeah, I can get the gas numbers too.
Right, okay.
But it's probably minimal.
True. Although, you don't want the pipes
Well,
bursting.
to be clear, yeah, it's not on town water. It's a well. I had the building winterized before last winter, so that to take away the threat of frozen, bursting pipes and
good.
things of that nature. The toilets are off. Everything's drained in the building. So
wonderful, okay.
Yeah, because we didn't want to experience that. I mean, that was one of my concerns. Also, the age of the HVAC. If the heating system goes, it'd be painful to have to make an expensive repair to a heating system in a building that's vacant.
Right.
So.
And I think you had made good commentary on Monday night last night, oh no, sorry, 2 nights ago, that really this building cannot be used right now for the public as it is not handicap accessible in any ways or sorts. And for us to be able to make it handicapped accessible, there'd be a good deal of cost into that. And certainly the numbers that you had provided from our third-party group, I think really showed what those costs would be. And I think you can't really just make it just handicapped accessible without doing some of the other parts that really need to happen for the building. So,
Yeah, and you know, just like the school district just illustrated as well, I mean, things change in shorter span times than this. In fact, Dave Ellis provided me with some great historical background and references on the building today, forwarded through Cheerston's office, and I appreciate that very much. And you know, the town was at a crossroads in 1976 when they were deciding whether or not to demolish the building or what to do with it when they were no longer going to use it as a town hall. And that's when the Lions took it over. And since that time, obviously codes and spatial needs and size of bathrooms and ADA compliance have all changed. So to try and fit the building into today's standards is a challenge, to say the least.
Was that Ted?
I was also just going to say, I did like the plan that you had presented. I thought between you and the architects and designers, I thought it was an interesting plan and idea for the building moving forward. We'll see how the commentary comes out from the public.
Thank you.
Tony?
So I had asked you last time, it's expensive to build a municipal building. It's expensive to retrofit a building to make it municipal because of all the codes and whatnot. But when I asked you last time, for this amount of square feet, retrofitted, done, ready to go, the current building, are you still of the opinion it would cost more if we were going to do ground up?
We looked at that, and it's a great question. It's probably comparable to a new building. A new one is around $4 million, somewhere in that vicinity. You know, again, depending on, you know, taking some general assumptions of what we're going to do with the facility.
Right, and part of the issue that you have is no one's told you yet what they want to use it for. And that's really hard to design a building.
It has been a challenge, to say the least.
Pretty much impossible, actually.
We make some generalizations, and that's why we took the task at hand with the approach of what purpose was it being used when it closed? And so that was the intent around that. Now, whether if we think those services are valuable to the community, if we think that the town shouldn't be in the business of offering those services where they were being offered by the Lions, that's answers that have to come from the community at large.
Thank you.
Okay. Johnny?
I'll pass.
Yeah, I think the only comments I have is, this juncture, Londonderry owns that property, owns the building. It's something that, needs to be maintained. The town is at another crossroads, so definitely looking forward to, the direction of where that's kind of going. But, from purpose of placing it on this advisory document, I think it definitely it makes sense to, keep it that way, just for the pure fact that we own it. It's, I look at it as a risk because of its because of its age and other kind of aspects. There needs to be some type of maintenance there, and I trust that the numbers that have been provided and presented are as accurate as you can get without any clear direction on where to go. So I actually commend you for that. That's an incredibly difficult thing to do. But definitely from the sense of just having it on this document and potentially reducing the risk, I think it has to stay at definitely as a one priority for the town to continue discussions and continue to where it's kind of going. That's all I have to say, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Lynn?
So just a couple of things, Dave. Number one, Kelly, I think we do need to update, or everybody, we do need to update the dollar figure based on the numbers that Dave presented Monday night. But it's priority one. I'm not going to debate priority one versus two, but I think if it's a priority one, I'm looking at the verbiage on page 8, I think we should assign a date that we want to see this project take off. Right now, the date is TBD. I think FY 2024 is probably where we want it. I think for a priority one project, we can add that clarity. And then my other comment is on the funding source. How do you see, or what's the expectation of the primary source of funding for this? Is it going to be a warrant article in a bond? Because,
Great.
and I asked the question,
Yeah.
I'm not asking the question, I'm asking it just in terms of the priority for funding sources that are in the verbiage. The number one thing listed is donation, bequest, private. The last thing is a bond. I think it's flipped. I think we should put what we see as the priorities, or as what we forecast as the primary funding mechanisms. Put those first, and then put the other ones down after that.
Yeah. Excellent question in regards to financing, obviously, how we're going to pay for it. We didn't really, again, back when I was filling out the form in May and June, not even knowing really kind of an exact dollar amount. Financing really still hasn't even been something that has been really discussed, as we just got the numbers now. But there is a variety of ways. I think you're right. The primary source will be a bond. For duration, I don't know to what extent, and there are some grants that can be sought out as well. There's a new one that we just learned of, and we're still diving into that a little bit. And there's others that we potentially could go after, but that won't be a major chunk out of the $3.5 million. But nonetheless, it'd probably be a bonding source, and perhaps others.
So I just think for the format of the CIP, that should be listed first, as opposed to last under the funding sources.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right about the placement in the CIP. Again, back in May and June, we didn't know that, and then as things evolved, and then even the council even acknowledged that they were potentially bringing forward this for the March vote. So I think that is because of the priority in the age of the building that's where it's slated.
And I'd like to see the
Yep.
the CIP updated just to reflect that. My 2
Yes,
cents.
it will be.
Okay. Okay, great.
And I think if we go change in priorities, I think it really doesn't have any significance, because the town council will set their own priorities, the school board will set their own priorities. So this is a advisory document, so at this point, I don't think it's worthwhile arguing about that. I think we'll proceed anyway. Al?
All set.
Jake?
I'm good. I thought you had a great presentation the other night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Roger?
I have one question. We said that the amount of renovating this building equaled the same approximate of building a new building. What would the cost of maintenance between those two for the upcoming 50 years?
And I'm glad you kind of circled back to what Tony was driving at too, on a new facility and whatnot. The thing though that makes this project unique is the history. And so that has an intrinsic value to the community. And so if we didn't have the building and we just had the lot, would we be, again, understanding the challenges that the community is facing with education, infrastructure, and other, competing interests, would we be talking about this? Highly unlikely. But due to the age of the facility and the history and the value that we have with it and the emotional connections and ties to it that a great deal of this community has to that building, we find ourselves in kind of some uncharted waters as to, again, what do we value in the community of Londonderry? And so what can we envision there? And so could we envision a brand-new modern facility there across the street from the Common with the church settings? And I don't think that anybody can envision that. So yes, we can compare, an apple to a watermelon if we want, but I don't think that it really makes much sense, because a new facility is really not something that we would be debating here today if it were not for it being the Reverend Morrison Meeting House. AKA Town Hall, AKA Lions Hall. I did try to, never. I will say never on that one. I did, solicit to get some general ideas of, if we are a year-round facility, as is, if you will, again, understanding that some of the parking area may shrink or actually increase a little bit, but green space and what have you not. For landscaping annually, we're looking at about $5,900 as far as cutting grass, fall cleanups, spring cleanups, fertilization, and things like that. And then winter season, you could be $8,000 to $9,000 contracted services in that regard. To try to gauge what will your heating and energy costs, we can derive that if we get to the next level. If we get into a final design of the facility, we can make some assumptions on, what our R factors will be in the walls after renovation and things like that of a facility of that age. It's easy to do on a new facility, but on a facility like that, you got to make some generalized assumptions. And then again, hours of operation, how many weekends is it going to be utilized or rented? Are there going to be a lot of meetings in there at night? It's tough to come up with that. I did have an old spreadsheet from the Lions previously on kind of where their expenses were, and it's not even detailed enough to really kind of understand what we might be looking at. But certainly not to the expense of Town Hall or something of that nature, but.
I had some experience with the Historical Society and the building that they're trying to build. And it's been a long time because it is very expensive.
Yes.
But it's also extremely expensive to keep up the buildings they already have there. And that was my question. Are we going to end up with something that's going to be really expensive to continue on?
Yeah, a lot of these renovations, we are not touching the roof because it's been, within the last 10 years that it's been done. The siding has been on for how many years, and it appears to be in great condition. There's a couple things that will have to be addressed, but it's a pretty good, well, overall of that building. Similar to, the senior center and kind of what they did down there. And we really haven't experienced any extensive, oh my God problems, and that's an old building itself. It has a modern addition onto it, but a lot of it is original. Crawling around underneath down there is interesting.
Done that.
And it's holding up well. And I tend to think that this facility may see that similar type of foot traffic, perhaps maybe even a little bit more. But this renovation is a little bit grander than what was done there. And, we're going to try to preserve or bring back some of the original luster and glamour of the building too. And one of the things that we've been kicking the can around about is, after the public input meeting is perhaps try to have an open house there, if we will. We need to think that through a little bit. We might want to check with our insurance company just to, to what extent is it okay to let people in the building for
open
that?
house on the condemned
Yeah,
building.
we say it's not handicap accessible, and then somebody shows up with a
One way to fix the
wheelchair, and
issue.
it's, maybe get to sign a waiver or something before you come in, enter at own risk and stuff like that. But I think that's an important venture, and here's why. Because, a lot of people love the building and know the building very well, very intimately. And there's a lot of people that have driven by that building probably 3,000 times in the time they've lived in town and don't even know it's a town building. So I think it's important to get people inside because we're talking about it as if it's 250-year-old rundown, dilapidated, beat-down barn. And it's not. And when you're inside it, it's amazingly quiet. You feel the presence of being back in time. It's got the unique creakness and the calmness. Some of the materials, the ceilings, it was quite fascinating how I got up above the suspended ceiling. I didn't know I can contort my spine like that, but we did, and got some neat pictures. And that was very exciting to see that. And I just think that if we can put people in there and they kind of understand that, this is doable. And this could be very exciting. And getting back to the kids, I mean, some of the the real excitement in seeing what's going on with the recreation department, and it's becoming more robust, and Art has advocated for recreation for years, and he's excited. And they're doing new things. Recreation just isn't about throwing a ball around or tackling somebody or whatever. But there's a lot of excited things that could be potentially interesting to kids, nature walks and getting more use of the Kent Island Forest and the stage across the street or the stage in the building, in just arts and crafts and things like that are important to a community. And that's kind of, so if you can put people in there and kind of let them see the vision, feel it, know that the building's not old and musty and stinky and there's, mice running all over the place and things like that, I think it'd be important to try to at least let people see it. So, and see what their money would possibly be potentially put towards.
Okay.
Thanks, Mark.
Jason.
Last one.
I think one thing to
Go to the public.
that's
Yes,
important
of course.
To communicate is that this isn't like a build, renovate or leave. Like this is renovate or tear down, basically, right?
Well, I don't know that that's for me to answer. I think that's.
Wait and then tear down.
I think that's for the community to decide. I
No,
really
but
do.
what I'm saying is like there's going to be a cost.
Well-
If we don't use it, eventually there will be a cost associated with
The crossroads decision will become more and more evident as to which direction you're going to have to go.
Yeah.
I think right now we're positioned to be able to make a thoughtful, educated decision on what we're doing. But like I said at the beginning, a building of this age, unoccupied, with minimal, heat and air conditioning and maintenance, any building will degrade over time if you walk away from it. And understanding that construction costs, as the school board, now they're updating their numbers, and if we take a pass for another year, I'm sure I might be back in front of you saying, well, we're at 3.7 now. And now we get to a point where, we've gone down the road a few more years and we're finding more problems and there's more sagging of the floor, which is now pulling on the walls or creating other issues that weren't once there. The costs become out of reach to the point that, the decision gets made for us that we know where we're going in those crossroads because it's just not attainable anymore.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say is that it's not like it's a building in use and we just want to fix it up. Like, if we don't do this, then it doesn't get used and it sits there for another voting cycle. And eventually, like, there is a cost associated with not doing something.
Correct.
So, yeah.
I think the vote in and of itself will kind of dictate how people feel about the.
Yeah.
To me, that would tell me if it got voted down that people don't see the historical value in it. I'd be looking to tear it down after that.
Or they don't desire the types of services or potential use of the space as something that the town of Londonderry should be doing. It'll tell you clearly, no, we don't want the additional rec services. We don't want a place that we could, 501(c)(3) place, people could go and have meetings or fundraisers. We don't want to have a place affordable for someone to have a bridal shower or a baby shower or whatever we may envision that the community says they want to do with the hall space or, if that's something that the taxpayers decide that that's not illustrative of what Londonderry is, then we'll know exactly what to do with the building.
Dave, I would
one other-
definitely suggest that you do a virtual tour, cooperate with the crew from the Access Center, do a walkthrough, have them video everything and narrate it just like you did. And that way, you don't have to have all the public going in there and everything.
Yeah. That's a great idea. It's a great suggestion, Al. Yeah. I do. I think that's great. I just also think being in the space is we've got to work through that, but I think we can get there. But even still, it maybe perhaps that day we have the crew there.
Well, the way
we
you
can video
just
it.
described it emotionally about being in there, that's what people need to see, and they can see that on
Yeah.
video.
One other question. So the town, and correct me if I'm wrong, the town owns the orchard, the land for the orchard behind there, right? Or is it just okay, so they just bought the stuff on the land on the other side, right?
the
Okay,
other side.
Because I was thinking that would be a
Green
nice
side.
connection between.
Well, so to your point, Jason, and in the conceptuals too that you look, I think they did a good job at rendering. We're trying to create some connectivity to the common. I think that's key in a renovation of this nature, because we are trying to, bring back some of the importance of the building and the historical value of it. So it would make a very nice connectivity from that through the churches, through the Grange, up to the town hall and campus area, the school district. It's starting to, bring together that sense of community, of a maybe not a downtown feel, but this is the heart of Londonderry, and what a fine representative of an illustration that would be, coming up, and perhaps people wouldn't drive right by it 3,000 times without even noticing. They would be like, wow, what's that? That's interesting. Londonderry Community Center, or not the Dave Wally Center, the Londonderry, whatever it's going to be. We'll have a naming contest. Maybe we can have a sponsor pay to name it, and that'll be a fundraising opportunity.
The
I
New
don't know,
Balance
but-
Community Center.
Yeah, but there's some good ideas, but
Reverend
yeah.
Morrison's Meeting House.
Connectivity is important in this type of venture.
With that,
Chair.
Mr. Chair, I would love to hear from the public.
I would too. Are there any members of the public that have any questions, comments, concerns about both on the town side, the town issue, and of the school projects? I think it's rather silent out there.
Mr. Chair, I just had one
But,
last question for Mr.
I'll bring
Waller.
it back, I'll close the hearing and I'll bring it back for the board for deliberation and discussion, so.
I just had one last question for Mr. Wally. Just want to be, I guess, a bit of devil's advocate. You've had many conversations with our third party on designing all this and coming up with the pricing. How do you feel and they feel how accurate the pricing really is? Or do we think that there may be any unknowns that could increase this pricing?
Outside of soft costs and designing money and things like that, we really haven't captured that yet. But there's room for improvement. We did scale numbers down. Once we had the good visuals and we got the layout the best way that we think serves the building, to meet the necessary requirements. The bathrooms and the chairlift was a challenge, to
Oh,
say the
yes,
least,
of course.
because the front part of the building is much smaller than you realize, and the left side was really unavailable because that footprint in the vault needs to stay as is. So the really only new difference there is that would be an office space. But
we're not anticipating maybe seeing this price go up from 3.5 to
No.
more than that between now and March?
In fact, quite the opposite. There is a scaling down of the facility dependent upon what we hear from the community, where the kitchen was probably the biggest question mark, because we only put a kitchen there because there already is a kitchen in the facility. Again, just trying to keep apples to apples comparison. But we didn't really size it or fit it with any real general understanding as to what would go on in it. We made some general assumptions that we're probably not going to do a hood and get into that type of thing, because we don't really see meal preparation going in there, unless if we wanted to partner differently with a Meals on Wheels organization, but we already have that going on at the senior center, and that assists them in other needs that they have there too. So that's kind of out the window, but we don't really see that wanting to be some kind of gourmet kitchen back there. But the size was a little larger because we were trying to capture some additional storage on the back side of the building. And with the understanding that with the pavilion there and the useful purpose of that, and not wanting to have to necessarily, we wanted to have a little bit of separation so that if there was a birthday party going on in the pavilion, they have a bathroom accessible from the outside. The building wouldn't need to be open. They wouldn't need to enter the facility, or perhaps there may even be something going on in the facility that they needed some separation. But that back wall could be shrunk, so we could scale the kitchen down. We could lose one bathroom if we had to, depending on what we hear, and the square footage of the storage could go away as well. We were potentially thinking of, for some of the storage, the golf carts that we have, we don't really have a set place to store them. They're kind of over here and they're across the street, and we kind of thought that would make more sense to store them there. So, but there's the ability to scale the project down a little bit. But we feel pretty comfortable knowing the generalized numbers that we see in the commercial industry, which changes daily. It's hard. But we feel pretty solidly confident in those numbers.
Wonderful, thank you. Mr. Chair, bear with me here, but I'd like to make a motion. Can we make a motion?
I'm looking for a motion, so.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the fiscal year 2025 to 2030 CIP worksheet with the following amendments to show that Moose Hill 1A and 1B are combined with the appropriate cost and the scoring from the 1A, as well as an updated pricing on the Lions Hall project to be $3 to $4 million.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion for the planning board to adopt as amended. You have all that, Kelly?
And to include the Lions Hall in fiscal year 2024?
Yes.
Yes, correct.
Thought I heard you say it.
Yes.
Got it.
Okay, we've got everything. So, Jake made the motion, Al did the seconding. Any further discussion by the board? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Abstentions, chair is affirmative. And we have a CIP plan for 2025 to 2030.
Fantastic.
And those copies will be distributed to the school board, the town council, and the budget committee.
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion to adjourn in a second. Next week, we have 5:30. Pizza time. Okay, all those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.